Calling the meeting to order. Welcome to the East Lyme Board of Finance regular meeting of Wednesday, December 13th, 2023, 7 p.m. Rich, could I ask you to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, if you wouldn't mind?
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Okay, I am the temporary chair this evening for a few minutes, and I will lead the board in electing a chairman. So, are there any nominations for chairman of the Board of Finance?
I'd like to nominate Denise Hall as chairman.
I hear a nomination for Denise Hall. Are there any other nominations for chairperson? Do I hear any other nominations for chairperson? Do I hear any other nominations for chairperson? Being none, do I hear a second for Denise Hall?
Second.
Lauren McNamara, second the motion. Can we have a vote? Those in favor of Denise Hall being the chairperson of the Board of Finance, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, the motion carries. And Denise, I will sit down and let you take over the meeting. And thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, all of you, for your support. I appreciate it. Thank you. Next is the election of vice chair. Do I have any nominations for the position of vice chair?
I'd like to nominate Paul Maxfield for vice chair of the Board of Finance.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations for vice chair? Are there any other nominations for vice chair? And last call, any other nominations for vice chair? Hearing none, is there a second for vice chair?
Second.
And call for a vote. All those in favor of Paul Maxfield for vice chair signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries 6-0-0. Next on the agenda is delegations, where any member of the public can speak to an item that's on our agenda this evening. Seeing no public here, I think we can move on to the next order, approval of minutes. So first we have the regular meeting, September 13, 2023.
I'd like to move to approve the regular meeting minutes for September 13th, 2023.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion, corrections? No. All those in favor of approving the minutes of the regular meeting of September 13, 2023, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Yes.
So 5-0-1. Next is the special meeting of October 2nd, 2023.
I'd like to move to approve the special meeting of the Board of Finance on October 2nd, 2023.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion, questions, corrections? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the minutes of the special meeting of October 2nd, 2023, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Abstain.
5. Okay, 4. The motion carries 4-0-2. Next is the special meeting minutes from October 5th, 2023.
I'd like to move to approve the minutes of the special meeting of the Board of Finance for October 5th, 2023.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussions, questions, corrections? Hearing none, like to vote. All those in favor of approving the minutes from the special meeting of October 5th, 2023 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Another abstention.
Motion carries 501. And then we have the minutes from the special meeting of October 25th, 2023.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of October 25th, 2023, special meeting minutes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion, corrections?
Yes. Maybe I missed her while she was here, but I didn't notice our recording secretary was present. Brooke Stevens.
I don't think she was.
Yeah, she wasn't here. And I don't know if she was listening online live or what, and how that relates to being present or absent. Or if she went from a recording.
I have to say, I don't remember whether she was present or not.
I can watch the video.
Yeah.
We're talking the 25th meeting of October?
Yes.
Yep.
Well, it's probably a good chance she wasn't here because I believe she has another meeting at the same time and does this from recordings.
Right. So, and actually doing it from the recording sometime is even better because you can back up if you miss something.
However, I felt
Yeah.
as though the notation around the discussions was pretty light. I mean, I granted it's not a verbatim of the discussion, but I would like to see a little beefier minutes going forward.
Well, technically, if we're running by Robert's rules, the only thing that really has to go in the minutes are when, it's a discussion of the action items taken. So they're really not supposed to be a verbatim of everything that was said at the meeting.
Right.
And I
Just
think
just a little bit more content, though, I think would be helpful for the public if they were to look through minutes.
She's listening, so tomorrow
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Just to know.
so, can we vote to approve the minutes with the caveat that we will update whether she was present or not after a review? I think it's a minor enough that we
Mhm.
can.
Agreed.
Okay. Any other corrections? All those in favor of approving the minutes once we have the definitive answer on whether or not she was present or not, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Last one.
Okay. So, and actually on that note, the way the flow of the meeting went, I had meant to start off just saying welcome to Jay Ginsburg. Also, congratulations to Jay and Lauren and Rich on your re-elections. So it's great to have this addition, and I look forward to a good couple of years here working together with this team. And of course, congratulations to you, Dan, on your election. Look forward to working with you as well. And I know Rich had pointed out to me one of the other things, once we're throwing congratulations around, is congratulations to Kevin on your recent wedding. So, all good. So next on the agenda is our report from our
Good.
first selectman.
Thank you. And I reiterate the welcome to everyone, the new members and existing members of the board. We have a great board, and I look forward to working with you in a collaborative spirit, and I hope we can get a lot. I think we will get a lot done in the next 2 years. So just give you a couple of things I've been involved in. Most recently, last night, I was the chair for the Water and Sewer Commission, and so I now am the chair moving forward. And one of the things on the agenda last night, I wanted to bring it to your attention, we ratified a decision to opt out of what they call PFAS. I don't know if you know what PFAS is, polyfluor. It's a chemical and that can migrate into water supplies and water systems. And so there was a class action lawsuit and against 3M and DuPont. We decided there was a very tight time frame to opt out of that, of being a member of the class of that settlement. And so upon the advice of the Attorney General's office and our own counsel, and before I was sworn in, Kevin Seary very kindly brought me in on it, and I sat through the meeting, and I concurred with the other decisions that the right choice of action for the town was to opt out of the settlement. And the reasons for that was that if we had stayed in the settlement, and there's a lot of money set aside, there would be what we call a settlement matrix, and the town would receive a portion of the settlement funds. Problem is, we don't know what exposure we have. We don't know, it may be zero, maybe minimal, but the feeling was that the potential payout to the towns, if we did have PFAS, would not be enough to satisfy what we would have to do to clean up the water. You know, create another well, suck the water out, purify it, dump it back in. Create that cycle if it's located somewhere. The other thing, which is even more important than that, was there was an indemnification agreement that went with being in the settlement class. And what that means is if we stayed part of the settlement class, and let's say the unfortunate circumstance that somebody contracts a disease based on exposure to PFAS, and they sue the town, or they sue 3M or DuPont, we would have to indemnify 3M or DuPont to the extent that a person recovers damages because we were a member of that class. So it really inflates our liability. It could be astronomical. If you had a cluster somewhere because of it, and you know it's tens of millions of dollars, and we have to indemnify them, we could really be in trouble. So this way, we still have the right. In the unfortunate circumstance that we do have some exposure, we have the right to sue DuPont and 3M. We haven't given up that right. So it was thought to be the most prudent course of action. So I really tried to condense what all the thinking was. But yes.
Yeah, so with opting out, does that leave us still at a liability if a citizen was to sue the town of East Lyme for
Yes.
PFAS? Okay.
It does. But we would have the right to, if we were sued, town of East Lyme was sued, we could cite in DuPont or 3M, make them a party to the action, and so the aggrieved person, the damaged person, would look to them as well, and we could look to them and have force them to indemnify us perhaps in the lawsuit. So.
Right.
It really, we didn't have enough information. We don't know what our exposure is. We still don't know, and we had to make a decision because the deadline was, I think, December 4th. It was the same day that I was being sworn in, so we wanted to make sure that Kevin Seary did it.
And is this from firefighter foam, or?
It's the same type of foam. Yes,
But is that where our exposure could come from?
We haven't used it in our town. We dodged a bullet. The Guy's gas station fire. The foam truck was on its way from the airport to try to douse that fire because they just couldn't get, it was oil trucks burning. But they got a handle on it and they started shutting down the fire, so they turned the truck around. Had that not happened, that PFAS would have polluted the Patagonia River all the way down into the creek behind Giant's Neck, and it's a forever chemical. It's there forever. So thank God that I was so worried. I was there that night. I was watching the fire, and I was praying that truck would not be used. And thank God it wasn't. And so we were very fortunate. But where we could have potential exposure is up at Stone's Ranch on that north side of town. And they typically, they do drills, training, and we don't really know the extent to which they use PFAS. Some of you that have been here a long time might remember there was a plane crash there in the 60s. And I remember I was at there was a little convenience store called Bernard's down behind Rocky Neck, behind the Lyme Tavern, and it went right overhead and it crashed at Stone's Ranch. I was about 5 years old. But they would have used foam to fight that fire because it's a forever chemical. We don't know how much they used, how far it's migrated, and whether or not we have a problem. So without better knowledge, the prudent choice was to opt out. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. And then the other thing was I attended the Connecticut Conference of Municipalities, their annual event. It just happened to be right after I got sworn in, so it was nice. It was over the Mohegan Sun, and got to meet a lot of vendors that really helped the town, and took in a seminar there that actually helped me on an issue that I'm looking at right now. And then one other thing, at my first Board of Selectmen meeting, I did distribute a copy of the Board of Selectmen Code of Ethics. And I did that for two reasons. One, to set the tone moving forward, and to assure the public that, you know, what my vision is for working with the various things I'll be working with, and make sure the board understood where I'm coming from too. And so I just thought it was worthwhile for everybody to have a copy. And then one more thing, and I'll be quiet. I've been studying the East Lyme hazardous mitigation climate adaptation plan update. And, you know, it's a lot of pages. But I went through it, and there was one thing that stood out to me, and I just want to say it. It rates all the dams in town. And there are several. And they get rated A, B, double B. And there's one dam that if it went, the damage to our town would be catastrophic. And that is the dam on Patagonia Lake. It's down behind, if you go down Islanda Court and some of the houses back there, there's a dam back there. It's just, you know, not very big, but that dam controls all the water in Patagonia Lake, and there's a substantial amount of water in that lake. If that dam let go, that water would work its way down to the Sound and would come through 161 houses, and Bush Hill house, all the houses along that path. It would work its way down that stream. It would affect Niantic Center School. It would wipe that out for a period of time as it goes past underneath Charlie's Place, that little river. That's where it would want to get to. So knowing that and having seen that, and it's rated B, I really want to study that. And I want to look at it and see what more information we can find out about when was the last time it was inspected, see if I can get the state of Connecticut involved. It seems like here's a vulnerable point that we need to pay some attention to. So a lot of pages here, but that's the thing that stood out, and I'm going to follow up on it. So that's all I have tonight. Yes.
I applaud you for the stance on the Board of Ethics policy. I would love to have that shared with this board as well.
Of course.
And,
I'll make sure I get it over to you.
yeah. And I think it might also be helpful for people to sign off on whether they have any conflicts of interest. You know, so, you know, it's...
Well, and that's a mercurial thing, because you don't know yet. You know what I'm saying? A conflict of interest, you know, it may arise. And I think, you know, you have to, as long as people are aware to be looking for it, you may not even know you have a conflict of interest until there's a particular situation. So, you know, it is incumbent on people that are in government, and particularly the Board of Selectmen, to let it be known. If there's a conflict, then it's on them to recognize it, let us know. So maybe they don't vote on a particular item.
And tonight we're reviewing our bylaws, and I know that, I know that Kevin had provided the procurement policy to
Yes.
the Board of Selectmen. I don't know if you're planning on doing any updates to that, but I think that that would also be a good policy for this board to be familiar with.
Sure.
Because, you know, we
I actually worked on that way back when. And so I'd be happy to get an email copy to you, and you can disseminate it to the board. Yes.
Great.
Okay. Thank you. And I look forward to working with you all.
Thank you, Dan. So next on the agenda is the Board of Ed quarterly report. So as as we've gone through the last couple of years, we've had this standing agenda item of, the superintendent's report. And in speaking with Eric Bauman and Jeff Newton, everyone kind of felt like we didn't really know what was expected of, what information were we looking for. So, our role really is approving their budget, and the things that we're most interested in is, are they having an issue throughout the year with, is there anything major that could end up having a financial impact on the town? So coincidentally, there had also been a law passed by the state of Connecticut that requires the public school systems to provide a quarterly report of their revenues and expenses and projected year-end numbers. So it seemed like if our board got that on a quarterly basis and had a chance to review it and couple it with a standing invitation to either the board chair or the superintendent to come and address us anytime they want, and also be available to answer if after reviewing this, if any of us had questions, we can always reach out to them. So this is the first of those reports. Hopefully that plan works for everybody. I think, in the interest of everyone spends so much time at meetings, and if we can be a little bit more mindful of, are we just doing something because it's been a holdover habit from years gone by, or are we really getting something out of it? So I think now that this would be a quarterly report for us to look at, I think that we end up accomplishing what this board should be doing. Does anyone have any questions or concerns with that plan? All good? All right, next item on the agenda is our presentation from our newly married Director of Finance.
All right. So we're a little late on the numbers this month, but hold on. All right, next month we will. I'll have a little more to share as far as numbers go. So instead of moving it there, I think there's like 1, 2, 3, 4 there. Do you see that? Click like one of those. Perfect. Just slide side by side. Good. Okay. So today we're just going to briefly talk about these topics, and if you guys have questions, obviously just interrupt me and I'll answer them. Starting off, we're going to talk about the McCook's Beach seawall. I have a picture of that to show you what's going to happen there. We don't have solid numbers there yet, but the engineering department's working with Parks and Rec as well as our insurance agency to try to resolve this issue here. We do not believe, and the insurance already preliminarily rejected the claim. And there's past precedents on this. Madison has had a seawall that did the exact same things ours did, and they've rejected that claim as well. The BOE quarterly report we already touched upon. The finance department to-do list or things kind of Board of Finance and Finance Department that we need to work towards. The budget versus actual in the general fund. I forgot to print that before I came here, so I will email all of you that. There's only one thing of note there, and I know it off the top of my head, so we can talk about that. And since I don't have the slide because I didn't give you the handout, part-time seasonal help for Parks and Rec is running a little over budget this current year. In the last year at Park and Rec, there's been substantial turnover. There's a new director there. The parks supervisor, the prior one left. We've hired a new one, but it wasn't right away transition. So the parks needed to extend the time in which they brought in the part-time seasonal help. So I think right around Labor Day they leave. I think we used them up until the mid and November, just to clean up all the parks and get them ready for winter and just catch up on everything that was missed during the summer. So we'll be bringing that forward at next meeting or in a couple meetings to present a transfer there. All right, and then just so I have some placeholders, so next month we're going to talk about it. Interest income, we are trending very well with interest income. The Fed's decision today not to lower the interest rates, I personally like. And if you look at your portfolio today, it was up a lot. And then next meeting as well, we will have an update for the ARPA, for all the ARPA projects. And then audit update. Mr. Cunningham and I sat in a meeting with the MFAC, Municipal Finance Advisory Council, I believe it is, this morning, and we had to present to them our 2022 audit, and we'll talk about that a little bit as well. So here is the seawall that's keeping me up at night. So preliminary estimates are in the hundreds of thousands of dollars to repair this wall correctly. There's a one-time patch we can do that'll range from $40,000 to $60,000, I believe, but with one storm, that $60,000 will wash right away. So that is not advisable. So, like I said, we're still, the engineering department's looking at this, working on it, as well as some of the other departments here in town. But this will be in the hundreds of thousands of dollars to fix. So, you know, we have a contingency, you know, so this is why we have a contingency. And just talking about this, you remember when we were presented, when I presented the S&P rating, one of their questions was, you know, hey, what are you guys doing to work towards a coastal resiliency fund? That's great. That's a great example right there of why we would need that fund set up. So, does anyone have any questions with that seawall? It's really preliminary, but I wanted to share this with you because I imagine this is going to come out of contingency.
Just a question on that. Do we know how long it's been deteriorating like that, or is it just something very recent?
So this was at the end of November. There was a pretty bad storm.
Mm-hmm.
This caused all of that. This wall was fine until then.
Okay.
From what I was told by the engineering department and Joe Burgall, the public works director, water was hitting the wall and it undermined the wall and it was eroding underneath the wall. It eroded all the dirt under the wall, under this parking lot, slash little bench area. And finally, there was so much dirt eroded, that wall just collapsed under the pressure. So there's nothing, they call it like wrap, I think it is.
Okay.
So he said one of the options is to fill it in so it's safe. But the problem is there's still, the water can still get under that in a big storm. And then all that money we just spent and all that dirt gets washed out by Mother Nature again.
Yep.
So,
and then one other question regarding the ARPA update.
Okay.
Will that just be the town ARPA awards, or will it have a report from the various nonprofits and businesses that we gave ARPA grants to?
So I have that list. I can go around and get a status update of what they spent the money on. I don't know if I'll have that for next meeting, that one. I was referring to more of like the accounting, because I know some projects
okay.
are, last night at the water and sewer meeting, they closed out 2 ARPA projects to the tune of $190,000. And the Water and Sewer Commission has a request into the Board of Selectmen to reallocate that money to another project. But that's just 2 examples. There's 40 projects on that list. So we're just going to go one by one, one at a time, and just say, is it still open? What's the status update? And we'll have a status update for each project.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So just to keep you up to speed with what we're doing in the finance office, we are updating our accounting software. We've talked about this at length. The go live is July 1, 2024 for everything except payroll and utilities. Utilities will go live January 1, 2025. The idea being with payroll, obviously W-2s, and that such. So we will move payroll over 6 months after we move everything else over. So there'll be a period of time where I'm juggling 2 accounting systems. That'll be fun. And then July 1, 2025, we implement utility billing within Munis. This seems like it's far out, but we've had about 30 full days of implementation already. I think there's 40 scheduled between now and July 1. So myself, the Deputy Finance Director, and Mariana Stevens at the Board of Ed are sitting in meetings once or twice a week, all day, from 8 to 4, implementing this software. It's a very robust software. It's not just QuickBooks where we log in and create a few accounts, we're good to go. This is a full enterprise resource planning tool. So and this impacts pretty much every office in Town Hall. It's got cashiering functionality. So this will really bring us up to date in a lot of offices. banking. I've talked to the treasurer, and I think it's time we go out to RFP. We currently use two banks, one in town and one that is not in town. So we're going to put together an RFP and look at the options. Exploring new software. I'm always getting calls from these software companies that are willing to sell you just about everything, but a few of them that I think are worthwhile: OpenGov, ClearGov, DebtBook, and LeaseCrunch. So OpenGov, the idea being transparency in government. ClearGov, kind of similar to OpenGov, but that's more of a budgeting tool and a more robust budgeting package. DebtBook and LeaseBook are exactly the same. There's new exactly the same. I don't want to get caught there, but competitors, they do the accounting for leases. It's kind of specialized. There's new GASB rules, so we'll look towards that when I have some free time in 2025. But I just want to put this on the agenda and let the new members know what we're working on in the finance office. And then recently we've kind of decentralized cash receipts in town hall now. So we've sent out. So this isn't very environmental, but we'll get new environmental bags. So every office has plastic security bags. They do their deposits. They put the deposits in the security bags, seal the envelope, and then bring that to the finance office. So we are no longer handling cash in the finance office. Everything is decentralized. So the deposits go into the bag. There's a clear chain of custody that goes to Brinks. Brinks delivers it, and then we do the three-way reconciliation. Right? There's no more. We count the money in the finance office and we do the deposit. Not much segregation of duties in that one. So we split that out a little bit and just, trying to update the policies and procedures in the various sections of the finance office. Financial statement audit updates. We're really focused on 2022. Fiscal year 23, we've closed out. We've closed all the purchase orders. Fiscal year 24, we have quarterly budget meetings. I'm always monitoring to make sure we're in good shape there. We know of one or two accounts that are kind of giving us some challenges right now. But really, we're going to talk about the financial statement audits and timeline that we presented today to the Municipal Finance Advisory Council. So. Skipping ahead here. So just give everyone a history of the financial statement audits. The last financial statement we filed on time was 2013. So that was the last financial statement we filed without a request. And since then, it's some years were better than others. So what we are trying to do is get on track, make sure we do not have to file extensions anymore, and really that's where the state of Connecticut is really breathing down our necks to make sure we file the 2024 audit by the end of next year, 12/31/2024. So that means, in 2 weeks we're in 2024. I'll have to file 22, 23, and 24's financial statement audits. So this is our projected timeline. The top part's what we've already done. And from 12/22 down is where we are working currently to get this audit out by the end of February. That is our current timeline, and we have concurrence with the auditors as well.
Kevin, one question. Just to back up, did we get the single audit issue resolved with the 21 audit? There was an issue with the 21 audit? I think that's good. We have to redo the single audits for...
I thought that was the 2020 with the OPM, and last I heard with them, I haven't heard anything.
Whichever year it was. I know it was in CLA's...
I think
was it on their to-do list, or was it in our to-do list too?
So maybe I just didn't give you an update, but 2021 is done. The single audit, state single are both done.
Okay.
I believe they're all uploaded to the OPM EARS portal, or whatever you want to call it. But thanks for stressing me out, Paul. I'll look at that later.
Okay. Well, it's just a matter of moving one grant from the state to it was either going from the state to the feds or the feds to the state. I'm not sure which way it was going, but...
Okay. I'll look at that. I think it was 2020.
All right.
And I think the Department of Health was going to send us a letter. And last time I talked to the guy, he said, we haven't finalized the letter. And that was like when I first started here. So the state of Connecticut moves a little slower than we do. So I'll look at that and get back to you. So 2023, the day after we finish 2022, we're going to hop right into 2023. I project about a 5.5 month timeline here. And then we jump right into 2024. And like I said today to the MFAC committee, I do not believe, and I said this, I said, while the assignment was to get them all done by 2024, the end of 2024, this is in the peak of busy season for the auditors, right? August 16th to 12/31. They're probably not going to have time for us, and Nicoletta kind of was on the fence there a little bit. So realistically, I imagine we may have to do an extension or two, but those are normal extensions. Those aren't, we're asking for a year-out extensions. It's a month or maybe 2 months. So if we could get there, we just caught up a whole year. So that would be fantastic. And just to show you I reported this to the MFAC, so I'll tell you guys as well. Just the staffing in the finance office. We have myself, the finance director, our deputy finance director / purchasing agent on his way to the Bahamas right now, the part-time senior accountant, who, she works 8 hours a week, roughly, about 20 hours a month. She helps out in bank recs and tax collector reconciliations. So really, that position morphed into that deputy finance director position. But as you know, we've had some turnover in the deputy finance director position. So this person gracefully has stayed on for us this year. And to train both of the finance directors in the reconciliation process and where to find stuff. So she's looking to transition to that retired life that she's been promised for 10 years. So we're looking to make that a reality, and so we'll see what the budget looks like this year. Maybe we keep her on for a few more months just to help out with reconciliations while we're catching up in the finance office. And then we have 3 fiscal clerks, accounts payable, payroll, and accounts receivable, as well as we contracted services for an external accountant to come in a month or so to assist in any audit prep questions we have and things like that. So we have about 5.25 full-time equivalents with the external accountant when needed. So this was that finance to-do list we were talking about. It's more of like a just keep me on track and focused. So next month I can say, oh, these are what we have to do. So we talked about the Coastal Resiliency Fund, and that's really spearheaded by the Board of Selectmen and the First Selectman, but we'll see more of that, especially now that we have to pay for this wall. Establishing a grant fund, I have to look into that. We've been talking about it. I didn't see any questions about, there was a grant fund, but I have to read the charter a little better there, or the charter revision questions. Capital committee, we have about $80 million in debt here in town, and we have a lot of needs that are coming up. The fire departments have both put in for new fire stations in the 10-year capital plan, and there's a tremendous need for the capital projects to kind of get prioritized and a long-term strategic plan developed there for those. So we'll be working towards that hopefully shortly as well. And then last but not least, an OPEB trust. We have an OPEB liability of, I believe, $11 million, give or take. But it would probably be good to establish a trust here so we can start putting money aside for that, like we do with the pension, right? Every year we put about $600,000, $650 this year, I believe it is, aside into the pension, but we do not do that right now for OPEB.
Yeah. And just for someone who doesn't know what that means, it's the other post-employment benefits. So it's basically health care for retirees.
Correct.
And this is something that's also been cited by the rating agencies as, something that we should do. And even if it's a nominal amount of money, it shows that we're cognizant of this liability that's out there. So if we could.
So S&P asked us during the rating call for 2 things in the future they want to see. They want to see us work towards a coastal resiliency fund, really spearheaded by Branford started the first one. The finance director over there, Jim Finch, kind of spearheaded that. And then the OPEB trust. Those are 2 things they're really pushing towards. They want to see us kind of moving the needle there before our next rating call, probably this upcoming July. Whew. That's all I had. Any questions?
Can I make a comment?
Please.
Yep.
I was in on the Zoom meeting today, Kevin, with the state of Connecticut, And there were several other towns that also had, they had gotten behind on their filings. And, I followed very closely the questioning and the demeanor of the committee towards those representatives in the other town. And then we got to East Lyme. And Kevin did such a fine job. I mean, the whole tone from the board changed, and they were very receptive, and they could see how much he's done to get us back on track. And it was dramatic to me to see. I was saying, "Oh boy, here we go." And
they were getting lambasted.
they were getting skewered, and he did a fantastic job. Was very well prepared. And Kevin, I commend you with what you've done on that, because this is a big problem we've got to wrap up. And so I think we're in good shape. But I just wanted to say publicly what a great job you did today. So that's it.
Thank you. I concur. Anyone else with questions or on that? Okay, next order under new business is a review of the Board of Finance bylaws. So every year at the first meeting, or not every year, but pretty much every year this time, we take a look at our bylaws to see if anything needs to be changed. I know I circulated it so everybody would have it again. And then I also emailed everybody with some changes that that I had recommended. So one was in Article 4, where it says election of officers. I said, let's add filling vacancies, so that there's no question as to how, if something were to happen, someone moves away, whatever, and we had to fill it exactly how the nomination process would take place. So I said after once a new chair has been elected paragraph, then start off with a new paragraph. This is right above where Article 5 starts. If a vacancy occurs on the board, the chair will take the nominations for candidates to fill the vacancy. After all nominations are completed, then the board members will vote in the order the nominations were made. So, because I know that, there's different ways of doing it. Some would vote after someone makes a nomination, but I think if you don't know if someone else is going to be nominated, then you don't know whether you want to vote for that person. So I think it makes sense to have all the nominations out there and then take the votes in the order that they were nominated. Everyone okay with that?
I have a comment.
Mm-hmm.
When somebody is nominated, will this exclude the nominees from presenting to the board their qualifications? Does that need to be in there, or will it be kind of automatic, or won't it occur?
I think when someone's making that nomination, they can include saying, and, this is why I'm nominating them, and or share any written resume or something. So I think it would allow for that.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to make sure if it comes up that
Mm-hmm.
that we have enough information about the nominees.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and then
Denise,
Yep.
along those lines, it's nice to have somebody speak on your behalf, but I think it's also very nice to have the candidates speak on their own behalf. And if we find out about an opening and the receipt of the background information, the resume, or whatever accompanying materials is delayed to receiving it that night, you don't have any time to look that over. So I think there needs to be due time from receipt of materials.
I agree. I don't think the language I've suggested precludes that. This is just about the voting.
Right.
So I would envision that if there was an opening, there would be discussions on who people are recommending, and probably getting that information out ahead of time so that once you got to the actual nomination stage, you know,
You'd have the-
You'd have it, yeah.
The full,
Yeah.
full
I mean,
model.
I don't think we need to get into that much
okay.
detail here, but I would say, you know, that would be the process where,
Okay, and one last potential issue with the rise of people interested in alternatives to the two parties, and potentially people independently expressing an interest. You may not have a 50%. If you have more than two candidates for one position, you may not have 50% majority.
you know, and I put it in my
That
email,
would be
but I
probably
didn't say, but
pretty
I said
rare, yeah.
contingent upon compliance with the state's minority representation law. So, I didn't read that, but it was in my email.
No, but I mean, if you have three candidates coming up for one position, let's say one candidate gets 45%, one gets 40%, and one gets 15%. Nobody's got the 50%.
Yeah. So I think in those instances, you would vote again, and there's probably people who, that you would say, if your candidate only got 5%, you might then say, okay, this isn't gonna, I might as well vote for the,
Uh-uh.
yeah.
Okay.
So, and again, the first nominee to receive more than 50% of the vote shall fill the vacancy.
Okay.
So that part was in my email, I just failed to write it all up. Then under Article 7, as we've all discussed, we thought that meeting at 5:30 would be more practical, especially if we have people that work here in the town who are asked to come in to present, you know, rather than them driving home and then coming back. And this would also allow us to get home at an earlier time should our meetings run late. So since this is part of our bylaws, suggest changing 7 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. under that, so that going forward, we will start meeting at 5:30 as everybody's agreed to. So there's that change. And then the other thing in the second paragraph in Article 7 was there had been some language in the bylaws regarding how the recordings were being maintained by the town clerk, and Karen Galvo brought it to our attention that they aren't doing this anymore, and this had just never been changed. So I just sent you the language changing that to they'll be available on YouTube, maintained on the town's website. And those were all the changes I had. I didn't see any other changes proposed by anybody else, but if you have them now.
I have a question
Sure.
about, I was approached by someone who was very upset because they claimed they couldn't get on the town website to look at something they wanted to look at. I'm wondering if we should have something in there for people that might not have internet access, instead of just saying it's on YouTube. I think it could be something as simple as saying, you know, library has internet access, or something like that. But I think it would be good from a public relations viewpoint to have some provision in there.
I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying. I'm just trying to turn that into, you know, what are we doing? Telling people where they can find internet?
Well, I guess we could say that it'll be on the town website, and we could specify that if they have trouble reaching the town website, there's internet available at the library, or, you it could be worded more diplomatically than that, but I just don't want to have this person approach me again and complain about it.
Well, I
I mean,
guess,
they're just bylaws. I think we just
Yeah.
say where it is. How the person gets
Gets
access
yeah.
really isn't a part of the bylaws.
you know,
You know, it's-
right, but you need the internet to get to YouTube.
I mean, that's we could put the town, the library could put on their,
Well-
library could put on their website that they have computers available for people to access internet, but
Well,
I don't
the
think it's a
library
bylaw
also
issue.
has internet, but they can get you wired up at home that you can take that out like a book. So,
So I think,
but it doesn't need to be part of the bylaws.
yeah,
But
I don't think
it
it's
could be good
because-
public service for the town to
Yeah.
let citizens know how they
Yeah.
can access internet if they don't have it.
yeah. So, we're all the ambassadors for the town, and so it behooves us to find an answer if someone has a problem, but probably not put it all into our bylaws. Okay, so does anyone have any other additions, corrections? If not, do I have a motion to adopt the bylaws with the changes just discussed?
So moved.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 600. And Kevin, if you want to just circulate the final one with those changes and provide them to the town clerk? Thank you.
I'll send it to you guys first.
Okay. So now that we approved the bylaws, the next thing on the agenda is our annual calendar. So these are the dates and the time of 5:30 for all of our meetings you have in your package. And then at our next meeting, we're going to review not just this annual meeting, but also what types of things we want to discuss at each one of these meetings. So whether we ask the pension board to present on a semi-annual basis, when do we want to review, the Board of Ed stuff. So we're going to lay all of that out meeting by meeting. So I think we've done most of it, but I think we should have that for our next meeting.
Tomorrow I'll send that out to everybody, the latest draft,
Mm-hmm.
kind of see what we were thinking about, and then if you have any questions, just come to the next meeting.
Yeah.
We'll add it on there.
And then we'll also, as we have all the dates fleshed out for the budget type of meetings, it's good to get that on everybody's calendar, but also, I don't know, I can't remember whether we reserved the high school auditorium for the budget public hearings. I think we might have
I think we did
automatically
it. We
done
do it a
that.
year in advance.
Yeah, but I just want
I'll
to make
double
sure
check.
we do that because then space is in demand.
I'll double check.
All right. Next on the agenda is public discussion. Again, I don't see any
Do
public.
we need a motion on this, or?
Well, sure.
Okay.
Can't hurt.
Move
Yeah.
to accept the Board of Finance meeting schedule calendar for 2024 as presented.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Can't hurt, right?
Great. Board comments. And I know Rich and I spoke a little. He had a couple of thoughts that he wanted to
Yes,
discuss.
So if it's okay with everybody, I'd
Sure.
like to make my comments. It's interesting in that going through our bylaws in Article 7 under the agenda, the second sentence states that board action will take place only on those items specifically listed as part of the written agenda for that particular meeting, except that items may be added to the agenda of any regular meeting by a 2/3 vote of those present and voting. So I think probably, I don't know where you would put in an agenda. If somebody wanted to add an additional item to an agenda, make a motion for it, and that it either be approved or disapproved by that 2/3 majority. What I had wanted to have on the agenda tonight, which was not on the agenda, when we had approved our fund balance policy, we agreed that we would strive towards putting in achieving 17% of the budget as the fund balance. We also, as part of that, the amount that we could withdraw from our fund balance was capped at 0.5%. To me, I think since this last year, we borrowed 2.3 million. The year before, 1.3 million. The year before, 900,000. The year before, 600,000. 400,000 as a cap, our budget's roughly 80 million, seems a very hopeful amount. And the reason that I think that it's hopeful is because, one, we've just created a human services department, which I wholeheartedly applaud and approve, and I had suggested that to Kevin, and I'm glad the Board of Selectmen approved that. Maybe it was at a meeting that I missed, but I didn't notice any of our agendas having the approval of those fundings for that department. I think it's very wise to provide that. Most towns have a human services department. But again, these were ARPA positions that were then integrated into our regular budget. We have a lot of construction going on in town, multiple police cars out there. We all understand that they are off-duty policemen, that the overtime is paid by the contractor. Part of that goes into the vehicle acquisition, and part of that goes to the police overtime. However, I get concerned with the number of officers that I see out there that potential overtime could lead into a tremendous pension liability. I don't know what is being contributed to their pension. Additionally, I don't know who covers the Social Security benefits on those overtime hours. As Kevin mentioned, we've got the Coastal Resiliency Fund that we need to start building up. We have an open space fund that if the grant for the land trust goes through to the town for the acquisition of the 3 properties that include the Hathaway property, Oswegatchie Hills, and I forget the name of the one at Giant's Neck. But that would drain the open space fund. And I think that's an important thing to have as a budget item going forward. That again is a decision by the Board of Selectmen. Kevin also mentioned a grant fund, and we've got the other post-employment benefits that we need to cover. Pension was mentioned that I think we contribute $500,000 to $600,000 now, with, I believe your correspondence mentioned in a few years will be $2 million.
Depending on...
We're having a lot of liabilities in terms of finances here, and I realize we need to keep our financial house in order, but I also don't want to break the backs of our taxpayers. The schools, 98 to 99% of their budget is fixed, and you can't really cut without getting rid of staff beyond that. I would like a reevaluation of that 0.5% pull from the fund balance to be added to the agenda, perhaps hopefully next month.
Yep. And so one of the things that I said in speaking with Rich, yes, I really would like to have a full understanding of just how the police overtime and the pension, but I thought it made more sense to bring that up as something that this board would like to look at and give Kevin and or Dan a chance. Perhaps this is something that you're already looking at or have some information. So I just thought, let's bring it up as a request and then can make it a formal agenda item to fully review the numbers.
Well, I think we go way beyond just the police category. I
Yep.
think we have
Yep.
a host of issues, and I think to wait to have all the numbers to preclude a discussion on this matter, I think is unnecessary. We didn't have the numbers when we made our decision for that 0.5% cap.
So, would you like to, in the fund balance policy, point out what do you have it with you?
I don't have it with me, but I remember the sentence that mentioned that withdrawals from the fund balance to address budgetary issues, and I can't remember the restrictions on the budgetary issues, but that it was capped at 0.5%. I'm sorry, I didn't bring the fund balance policy with me.
Here.
I can
Well,
point it out.
we want to just, I mean, we want to put on the agenda for next
Yeah,
meeting, let's do
but I
it.
just
I don't
wanna
want to
make
go
s-
into a discussion about it right
Nope,
now.
but
Yeah.
I just want to.
Yeah, I don't care to
point
have a
out-
discussion now because it
Okay.
wasn't on the agenda.
No, but I just thought if people then knew what you were looking for, then we would have a chance to go back and review what you were. Or you can share it with us afterwards and we can put it on the agenda for next month.
Okay.
Can I make one comment?
Sure.
Um,
So while you're looking for the fund balance, Rich, and we could talk afterwards, and we could go
Right.
that with the private duty billing. What I'll do is, when we go out and bill for private duty, the bill is broken out into like 4 or 5 different parts. There's a vehicle component, a labor component, an admin, a fuel, and then all the Social Security, Medicare, all that. So what I'll do is for next meeting, if we have it on the agenda, I will put I'll bring a deposit in and show you how that bill gets broken out.
Oh, okay, that'd be
All right?
great.
And we can dive into that a little bit.
That'd be great.
Because it is a little, a lot going on there.
Yes. And again, it's hard sometimes to just, when we were going through the fund balance policy, everybody took it back. This was over a 3 and 4 month period where we were reviewing every line item. And so sometimes it's difficult to say, oh, here's an agenda item. Do you want to vote on this before, it's given everybody a chance to go back home and read it and think about it. So,
Yeah, and I'll invite the chief, just so
Yeah,
he can,
that
if
would
he
be
wants to
good.
have any explanations and talk
Yes.
about that, I think that'd be good.
okay.
I'll have to find it some
Yeah,
other
we can-
time. Okay. Here, I'll give this back. And hopefully it's a moot point on my part that there isn't that cap noted in there. But if it is, I'd like a discussion on that. And then just a couple of things that don't pertain to that. The Board of Ed doesn't distribute packets anymore and use all the hard copy. And I'm just wondering if folks have some kind of electronic device that they're capable of using, if we could move to an electronic form of packets, and that hopefully Kevin could create a shared drive for storing all the documents in. That would also cut his email size down, that he could just send a link to the various documents. And then the other thing is, lastly, that we had approved monies from the ARPA fund for the town to use Zoom for meetings and have hybrid meetings. I understand the Board of Selectmen has used it. Granted, the public didn't attend, but one of the Board of Selectmen did attend that way. And since we spent the ARPA and we got the equipment, I think it would behoove us to try to get more community participation. I don't know if we can drive it that way, but we sure don't drive it in person.
Yeah.
So,
It would certainly be nice, but, you know, the difficult thing there is you've got to have somebody operating the Zoom, letting people in and letting them speak. And as you can see, we haven't even been successful in getting a student to come and operate our equipment. So, you know.
I've heard that we're very close on that.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yes, the young men that were doing it last year graduated, so. And it would certainly, you know, be helpful for all of us, because sometimes there's, you know, you just can't get here. And when it's just one person or two people that are going to stay on it throughout,
Yeah.
it's easy, but it's a lot more difficult if you're trying to,
Understood.
yeah.
Yep.
And I definitely, I would throw it out to everybody. I know I was all set to bring my iPad in, and then I knew you had already made all the handouts, so, you know, for, at the very least, does everybody have, you know, an iPad or laptop that they would want to use instead of getting all the printouts?
Yeah, I'm fine. I can.
I'm okay.
So I would say, don't print anything out unless asked by somebody. How's that?
I'll print agendas, a couple agendas just to have them.
For the public.
This is over 600 pages. It was over a ream paper.
Really?
Yeah. One of those meeting minutes was like 11
Oh,
pages.
yeah. All right, anyone have any more comments for the board? And I just want to say, Rich, I appreciate all your thoughts. I know that you bring up a lot of good points, and
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, and one other comment. Congratulations to you and Paul for being chair and vice chair.
thank you. All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
To adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And happy holidays, everybody.